engaging with the Department of Police on their budget and the APP. As a committee, we have very few opportunities at this level to engage with the department, and therefore we would look forward to that presentation. Members have received a presentation, and you'd note that it's a relatively long presentation. It consists of at least 118 slides. In addition to the budget and APP information that is on that presentation, members will also note that we had requested additional budget-related information, and this information is also reflected from slides 90 to 118. Before I hand over to the DM to take us through, Deputy Minister, we've made a suggestion to the department to rather speak to the slides as opposed to going line by line on the slides. And this is also because that we are familiar with the department's budget and APP with your programs, as well as with your indicators to a large extent. But also we did receive the presentation, and members do have the presentation with them. With that being said, Deputy Minister, I also understand we have an apology from the Minister because of Cabinet today, but let me then hand over to yourself, DM, to then take us through the budget, the APP, and all the other relevant information that we requested from yourselves. Thank you very much, DM. 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 I'm not sure if it's just myself, but it would appear that the DM screen seems to be frozen.
My mic just froze. I think it's because of the switch of due to load shedding. I was connected with Wi-Fi and the straight connectivity, and when load shedding comes, the platform of Wi-Fi switches off, and the other one must come in. So in the process, it froze at the moment that you were requesting me to address the committee. My sincere apologies for this glitch, Chair. No intention to disorganize your team this morning. Good morning to you. Good morning to committee members, National Commissioner and the delegation, and everybody on the platform. Like the Chair said, that we don't have to introduce ourselves because our list has been submitted. Members are aware who is on the platform. I will therefore not waste time, Chair, but allow the National Commissioner to ask the relevant people, General Rabi, to make the presentation. But I think the NASCOM is in a better position to determine who must come in. Yes, indeed, we are also joined by provincial commissioners on the platform because the NCOP it's need to know and understand what is happening in the respective provinces, including the allocations to those particular provinces. We will try to talk to the presentation and not make the presentation as detailed as we have submitted it, because that might not allow you ample time, Chair, and the team to interact with the department. So we will try to be brief so that we give you ample time. I will therefore, through you, request that we allow the National Commissioner to lead the team in the presentation. Yes, indeed, we do confirm that the minister has submitted an apology. Hence, I will be leading the delegation, and thanks for accepting his apology. Over to you, National Commissioner, through you, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, DM. Good morning, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, members of SAPS that are on the platform. Without wasting time, Honorable Chairperson, I'm going to allow Major General Ravi to just do short opening and then give over to Lieutenant General Dimpane, the CFO, and from there the CFO will then take us through the budget for the year, and then thereafter General Ravi will then come back to the performance, the APP part of it, and present it. Thanks, Honorable Chairperson, and General Ravi, you can proceed.
Good morning, Honorable Chair and honorable members of the committee, our Honorable Deputy Minister in attendance, the senior management of the South African Police Service, our National Commissioner, and the National Head of DPCI and other senior managers in attendance. Honorable Chair, that is, as the National Commissioner indicated, we will be presenting on our budget and annual performance plan. If we look at the table of content, we'll notice that the presentation is actually made up of 3 parts. During the first part of the presentation, we will look at the estimates of national expenditure that will be presented by General Dimpane, the CFO. Following that, we will then start presenting on the SONA commitments, etc., the APP indicators that are reflected in the respective financial programs, and we will then conclude the presentation by focusing on the specific information that has been requested by the committee. If you agree, Chairperson, Honourable Chair, I will then hand over to General Dimpane to take us through the budget of the South African Police Service. Thank you.
Please continue.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, to the honorable members of the committee, to our Honorable Deputy Minister, National Commissioner, National Head of the DPCI, and all senior managers of the police. I will go straight to slide number 5, just to give a bit of background, Chairperson, in terms of the 2023 estimates of national expenditure. There are amounts that are appropriated for our vote 28, which is police. We allocate in terms of per program as well as per economic classification. Of importance, what we need to note is that there is a 13.6 billion that is additionally allocated to SAPS over the MTEF. This is to cater for the appointment of police trainees and their subsequent absorption as constables, and also to improve frontline capacity. There's an amount of 7.8 billion that is reserved for that. There is also an additional 5.8 billion over the 3-year MTF period for the carry-through cost of the 2022-23 cost of living salary adjustments. So this constitutes 13.6 billion, Chairperson. I see the presentation is no longer on the screen, Brigadier Mitchell. As we move to slide number 6, the background to the 2023 estimates of national expenditure continues. This slide is only indicating that the budget is compiled for 3 years, but revised annually. There are matters that affect the changes to the baseline, such as substantial budget reductions in previous MTEF. As we move to the next slide, slide number 7, this is an extract from our allocation letter in terms of the MTF allocations for 23-24 to 25-26 financial years. Initially, we had been allocated 99 billion for the 23-24 financial years. There were baseline increases, as I indicated, to cater for additional enlistments for 23-24. There is a 1.199 billion in this regard, as well as 1.919 billion to cater for cost of living salary adjustments. So the total allocation is 102.137 billion for the 23-24 financial year. As we move on to the next slide, Chair, in terms of the spending trends, we just want to illustrate the average annual growth over the MTF from 23-24 to 25-26. There is a 3.9% in terms of the average annual growth, and this is no real growth if inflation is discounted. As we move on, we are indicating our allocation per financial program. At Chairperson, we have 5 programs as the Vote Police. These programs reflect broad purpose and functions on which funds are expended. Program 1, administration, for the 23-24, there's a 20.977 billion that is allocated. The average size within the total vote for this program is 20.2%. For program 2, visible policing, there's an allocation of 52.158 billion, and an average size within the total vote is 51.6%. Program 3, detective services, an allocation of 20.857 billion for the 23-24 financial year. And this program's average size within the vote is 20.3%. Crime intelligence, our program 4, has been allocated 4.381 billion. And program 5, which is protection and security services, has been allocated 3.764 billion. We want to also indicate that within these allocations, there is a once-off non-pensionable allowance paid in 2022-23 financial year, which was terminated from the 2023-24 financial year. There is an amount of 2.8 billion, which resulted in negative growth or no growth year on year when comparing to the previous financial year. The growth rate in program 1 is calculated from a reduced 2022-23 baseline, Chair, as capital works was redirected to other priorities and programs during the 2022-23 financial year. The allocation in terms of economic classifications, these are items that represents goods and services to pursue purposes and functions. You will note the average size within the total budget in terms of current payments is 95.3%. The current payments are made up of compensation of employees as well as goods and services. Now, the allocation for compensation of employees for the 2023-24 financial year is 79.795 billion, with goods and services with an allocation of 17.340 billion in this particular regard. We have allocated a 1.267 billion for transfers and subsidies, as well as a 3.735 billion for capital assets. Capital assets are made up of buildings and other fixed structures, as well as machinery and equipment. Due to the termination of the once-off non-pensionable allowance from 23-24, the compensation of employees category resulted in a reduction between the previous financial year as well as the 2023-24 financial year. This was as a result of the 2.8 billion payments that were terminated in terms of the PSCBC agreement. Capital works was redirected to other priorities and programs during the previous financial year, and therefore this category of buildings and other fixed structures is displaying a higher growth rate for this year, which is 23-24 financial year. The next slide is just unpacking the allocation in terms of compensation of employees, that 79.795 billion that has been allocated to this line item. Chair, for the 23-24, we have reserved 61.835 billion to cater for our wage bill. These are the salaries, the pensions, the service bonus, the enlistments of the 10,000 trainees, and etc., etc. There's a 61.835 billion that is reserved for this. Cost of living salary adjustments, there was no provision that was made. This was as according to the National Treasury HRDP tool, as well as compensation of employees guidelines. We have reserved 653 million to cater for pay progression. We have also reserved 2.829 billion to cater for all allowances such as your service allowance, night shift allowance, public holidays, etc. Over time, there's 800 million that we have reserved in this regard, and a 3.254 billion that is reserved for rental and housing allowance. The two medical schemes, that is GEMS and Polmet, there is a 10.424 billion that is reserved in this regard. So in total, compensation of employees is allocated 79.795 billion. Chair, we have general remarks that we want to bring to the committee. We indicate in Chair that personnel is the primary cost driver in the vote police and also drives direct operational expenses. Compensation of employees expenditure is more than 78% of the vote. It is therefore annually determined from zero, taking into account existing personnel and new personnel, whereafter they are portioned between programs. Our operational expenditures are predominantly goods and services and machinery and equipment in order to allow us to perform services, and this comprises less than 22% of the total budget for the 23-24 financial year. Our budget essentially has three categories, which is your compensation of employees, your operational budget, as well as your capital expenditure. In terms of MTF funding analysis, the departmental spending over the MTF will be in relation to the core program, with visible policing more than 51% weight of the total vote in the 23-24 financial year. The detective service program in terms of weight is also a significant portion of more than 20%. The growth rate, as I initially indicated, is 3.9% with no real growth if inflation is discounted. The average growth rate is affected by substantial budget reductions in the 2021 MTF, especially on compensation of employees as well as goods and services. However, Chair, additional funding that we have received from National Treasury over the MTF for the recruitment of additional personnel will allow for the growth in personnel numbers up to 25-26 financial year. We have a specific focus, spending focus for the 23-24 financial year up to 25-26, Chair, in terms of goods and services and capital investment. We are going to be continuing to focus on gender-based violence, as well as additional emphasis on resourcing of FCS units. We will sustain forensic services baseline allocation as previously increased to allow for implementation of the amended DNA bill. We will also be focusing on the capacitation of our 10-111 call centers. We will sustain the DPCI baseline allocation as increased in recent times. We also continue to capacitate existing POP units, and we will also be carrying out interventions through deployments across the country. We will also be concentrating on the capacitation of our frontline services. As you are aware, that the 10,000 that we are recruiting in the main, those resources are allocated to our frontline services. The professionalization of police service through skills development is also receiving attention with this allocation. Capacitation of functional activities pertaining to cybercrime and specialized multidisciplinary units will also receive a focus, with capacitation of crime intelligence also receiving a focus. We are also investing in capital assets consisting of machinery and equipment. Essentially, these are our transport assets as well as mobile police stations to increase our footprints in the country. We will also, Chair, continue to procure critical items to equip our members for effective policing, such as bulletproof vests, uniform, etc. So these are the focus areas, Chair, in terms of this allocation. With your permission, I will now hand over to General Rabi to take the committee through in terms of the rest of the presentation. Thank you, Chair.
Good morning, Honourable Chairperson and Honourable Members. Brigadier Mitchell speaking. All protocol observed. Chairperson, with your permission, I will take Honourable Members through the South African Police Service Annual Performance Plan for 23-24, starting with the analysis of our SONA commitments. Following the State of the Nation address by the President, it was necessary for us to adjust our annual performance plan to make sure that we include those key initiatives from the SONA that affect the department directly. As a result of that, we've included a performance indicator that relates to the number of new police recruits that will be enlisted annually, with the medium-term targets focusing on an addition of 10,000 members per annum, which is linked to the additional budget which General Dampani referred to earlier. We also have an indirect role to play in terms of improving accessibility and the functioning of sexual offences courts, as well as expanding the network of Tutuzela care centres. And we have performance indicators that relate specifically to that initiative, the detection rate for contact crimes for both women and children, as well as the analysis of DNA case exhibits that we undertake as a department. We have a key deliverable in terms of the SAPS 10111 helpline reforms, and to that extent, we've included a performance indicator in our APP within Program 2, Visible Policing, which talks to the cooperation that we are undertaking with the Presidency through Project Vulindlela in order to reform the 10111 centers within the SAPS. Just giving a very brief introduction to the annual performance plan. Honourable Chairperson and members will be familiar with our strategic plan as well as the annual performance plan. But what we would like to emphasise as a department is our national policing strategy, which includes a detailed annual operational plan containing implementation requirements that are linked directly to the outputs in the annual performance plan, as well as certain key government priorities. The purpose is therefore to support the annual performance plan, the implementation of the annual performance plan, by focusing the actions of key business units on the achievements of the outputs that we have specified in the APP, as well as additional government priorities. Chairperson, we have received proposals from oversight bodies as well as assurance providers indicating that we have too many performance indicators in our annual performance plan. We've utilized the departmental annual operational plan, which is our national policing strategy, to cascade a number of performance indicators down from the annual performance plan into the annual operational plan. We've been able to decrease the number of performance indicators from 95 in our 22-23 APP to 84 in our 23-24 APP. However, just to give the committee assurance that these indicators will not be lost, we will continue to monitor these indicators and report on them to the committee going forward. Chairperson, looking at Program 1, what we have done within Program 1 is we've clustered the indicators under each of the support capabilities. So starting off with supply chain management, as you indicated, honourable members are familiar with our APP. We will continue to focus on the reduction in the number of, my apologies, Chairperson, what I would like to introduce is just 2 statistical performance indicators that we have included. And the purpose of this is to prevent the potentially contradictory indicators that we have in our APP. We have initiatives within the APP, particularly within Program 2, that talk to our engagement with communities in order to encourage communities to report crime to the SAPS. But on the other hand, we had indicators in the APP that talk to the targeted reduction of particularly contact crimes against women and children. So what we will be doing going forward is, over the long term, our focus will still be on the reduction of the reported incidents of contact crime related to both women and children. However, we've removed the targets from the annual performance plan, so there is therefore no reason for any member of the SAPS not to record a crime related to gender-based violence or femicide that is reported to one of our police stations. And through our engagements with communities, we will encourage the reporting of these crimes. So we will continue to report on these crimes. However, we are not including specific targets within the annual performance plan. Going to Program 1, administration, the overview of the budget for Program 1 is provided. I will not go into that. You will note a slight increase in terms of the allocation, comparing 23-24 with 22-23. We also provide, Chairperson, a breakdown of the indicators that we have in our 23-24 APP, comparing it with the 22-23 annual performance plan. So honorable members will note that there is an increase of one performance indicator comparing 23-24 with 22-23. When we look at the indicators that fall within the supply chain management environment, as I indicated, we've clustered these indicators together under each of the support capabilities. We will continue to focus on the number of SAPS-owned firearms confirmed as stolen and lost. This is a key resource for us that we need to be able to control, extending our geographic footprint through the number of new police stations developed and indicated for 23-24, the 2 police stations, Dwarsberg and Muyeke. The number of mobile contact points procured will also extend our geographic footprint, and falling under supply chain management, you also have the targeted percentage decrease in the number of confirmed incidents of irregular expenditure. Looking at technology management services, the number of CCTV systems implemented to improve security at our police stations, as well as the security of the public who visit our police stations, and then extending our network capability through the increasing of the number of WAN sites that we have at our disposal. We have also included a performance indicator that relates to the date of finalization of the IS-ICT business continuity plan. And this was done at the behest of the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, which indicated in its comments on the annual performance plan that each department was required to include an output as well as a performance indicator that talks to business continuity. As a result of this, the current business continuity plan that we have in place, which was developed by CETA, will be reviewed by the SAPS, and the target date for that, the 31st of March. Chairperson, looking at the improved SAPS capability within the human resource management area, we have the number of new SAPS recruits enlisted annually. This is a new indicator that has been introduced into the annual performance plan linked to the SONA commitment that we have. The percentage of IPID-related cases will also remain in the annual performance plan. Looking at human resource development, we have a couple of key categories of training. The first being specified training in prioritized areas, looking at crime prevention, gender-based violence and vulnerable groups, as well as crime investigation, and then specified training in specialized capabilities, public order policing, forensic science, crime intelligence, and cybercrime being the priority areas. We will also continue with the indicator that talks to training in leadership and management development programs within the human resource development area. Chairperson, looking at the integrity and risk management capability that we have, the percentage of planned ethics and integrity advocacy and awareness programs completed will also feature in the annual performance plan, and we have increased the target comparing 22-23 with 23-24. Chairperson, sound financial management as an output that falls under the financial management services capability. The number of incidents of unauthorized expenditure will continue to focus on a 0 target, and the percentage decrease in the value of fruitless and wasteful expenditure will also be measured. The number of audits completed in terms of the internal audit plan, as well as percentage of planned forensic investigations finalized, fall within the internal audit capability. And finally, we have our division inspectorate, where we will continue to look at those inspections that have been executed in terms of our annually improved inspection plan. And the target here has also been increased from 231 to 309. Chairperson, what we've included in the presentation is just an explanation of the changes that we've made to every one of the performance indicators, comparing the 22-23 APP with the 23-24 annual performance plan. So members will be able to see exactly what we've done with each one of the indicators. And in addition to that, those indicators that have been de-escalated from the 23-24 annual operational plan, which will be included in our national policing strategy annual operational plan, are also specified per program. Looking at program 2, visible policing, the budget allocation to visible policing is specified. You will note the allocations to the individual capabilities within the various sub-programs: crime prevention, border security, specialized interventions, and to facilities. And when we look at the number of indicators that we have reflected in the 23-24 annual performance plan, there is a decrease of 4 indicators, where we move from 24 indicators to 20 indicators in the 23-24 APP. The number of illegal firearms recovered under the sub-program crime prevention will continue to feature, as well as the number of identifiable SAPS-owned firearms recovered, which is related to the indicator that we have in Program 1. The percentage of applications for new firearm licenses finalized within 120 working days. There have been significant improvements within the Central Firearms Register, driven by the Minister, the Deputy Minister, and the National Commissioner. There has been a significant improvement in performance, and we are anticipating that these targets will be achieved over the medium term. The percentage reduction in the number of reported contact crimes remains problematic for us. When we look at the estimated performance for 22-23, we are estimating an increase of 10.6%, which necessitates that we increase our targets over the medium term to ensure that we achieve the SONA commitment that was made in 2019 by the President of a 50% reduction in violent crime over a decade. So our targets increased to 12.15% over the medium term. The number of escapes from police custody, as well as the number of stolen and robbed vehicles, are key issues for us and will be maintained in the annual performance plan. And also, following advice that we received from oversight bodies as well as assurance providers, we've included a crime prevention orientated indicator within our annual performance plan, looking at the number of national and provincial Izimbizos and community engagements conducted. We will target 20 at a national level and 20 per province at a provincial level. The indicator that has been included from the State of the Nation address, the number of reports on the 10111 Command Center Reform Project, where we are working with the Presidency in terms of Project Vulindlela. 4 quarterly project progress reports will be provided to the Presidency in this regard. Chairperson, a performance indicator that we are struggling with at the moment, the percentage of functional police stations rendering a victim-friendly service to victims of crime, including gender-based violence and femicide. We increased the target in terms of the compliance with set criteria. So previously we targeted compliance with 2 of the set criteria. We increased that to 3 of the set criteria and stipulated, you will see the 3 criteria that are applicable. And through the annual performance plan, we will support this particular indicator through the acceleration of the training in the various programs that you see reflected. The percentage of functional police stations that have functional community police forums remains an issue for us. This is an indicator that is also reflected in the MTSF, which requires inclusion in our annual performance plan. In terms of specialized interventions, we have the percentage of peaceful crowd management incidents policed, as well as unrest crowd management incidents policed, that will continue to feature, as well as the medium to high risk incidents responded to by both the National Intervention Unit as well as the Special Task Force. In terms of border control, we have the crime-related hits reacted to, and there we will focus specifically on wanted persons as well as stolen and robbed vehicles. And we will continue to profile vehicles at land ports, containers at seaports, as well as cargo consignment at airports. The changes that have been made to the individual indicators in Program 2 are reflected as indicated, and the indicators that have been cascaded down, like, for example, the number of identified illegal liquor outlets closed, the focus on the top 30 national high contact crime wage stations, community in blue, traditional policing, safer cities, all of those will be cascaded down into the annual operational plan, and we will continue to report on those indicators. Program 3, Detective Services, we look at the budget overview for this particular program, a slight increase in terms of the allocation to the program, and the 3 sub-programs, crime investigation, the 4 sub-programs, crime investigation, criminal record center, forensic science laboratory, and our specialized investigation sub-program, which is the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation. The allocations reflected in terms of each one of those sub-programs. In terms of the number of indicators that we have reflected in the APP for 23-24, we have decreased the number of indicators from 30 to 24, starting with crime investigations, the detection rate for contact crimes and the detection rate for contact crimes against women, as well as the detection rate for contact crimes against children, will continue to feature. Important to note that these two indicators will support those indicators that we will be reporting on as statistical indicators. And the department is fully aware of the performance problems that we have in terms of our detection rates. And our Division Detective and Forensic Services has developed a key action plan to address this as a particular area of underperformance. The percentage of identified drug syndicates neutralized with arrests will also feature in the APP, as well as the percentage of identified organized criminal groups that are related to prioritized crime threats neutralized with arrests. And this is an indicator, the focus of which we have changed slightly compared to the 22-23 APP. We will now be focusing this indicator on specific crime threats that impact particularly on Program 2 and Program 3. So as indicated under the comments, the crime threats will be organized crime, gangsterism, illicit drugs, the trio crimes, aggravated robbery, kidnapping, extortion, crimes related to critical and essential infrastructure, illegal firearms, stock theft, and protected species. The percentage of compliance with the taking of buccal samples from Schedule 8 offenders, Honourable Chairperson and members will recognize this indicator from the 22-23 APP, in which we targeted the percentage of 80 for the 2023-24 financial year. However, it's important for us to demonstrate compliance with Section 36D1 of the Criminal Procedure Act, which became compulsory on the 31st of January 2022. As a result of that, we've increased the percentage to 100% for 23-24, as well as the medium term, to ensure as a department that we are compliant with that requirement. We have 4 categories of leads that we focus on, the first being person to crime, the second being crime to crime DNA leads, and Honourable Chairperson and members will note that the targets for these leads have been increased significantly compared to 22-23. The second two leads are the fingerprint leads, as well as the integrated ballistics identification system leads, and both of those targets have also been increased. The percentage of results of trial updated in respect of guilty verdicts finalized within 20 calendar days, as well as the percentage of original previous conviction reports fall within the Criminal Record Center sub-program. In terms of forensic services, we've maintained our indicators in the APP. The exact same set of indicators that was in 22-23 are reflected in 23-24. And again, through the intervention from the Minister, the Deputy Minister, and the National Commissioner working closely with the Division Detective and Forensic Services, there has been a significant improvement in terms of performance by our forensic capability, with the backlog having been effectively eradicated. And we do therefore anticipate that there will be a significant improvement in performance across all of the indicators that are reflected. So our routine case exhibits, as well as our non-routine case exhibits, the backlog itself, looking at the overall backlog, which must not exceed 10%, and then the DNA backlog specifically will also focus on a target of not exceeding 10%. The percentage of ballistics intelligence case exhibits, as well as DNA case exhibits, the targets have been maintained for those 2 performance indicators as well. Chairperson, on behalf of the National Head of the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation, just to briefly run through the performance indicators that relate to the DPCI, the first being the percentage of trial-ready case dockets for serious corruption within the public sector. And what the DPCI has done is included the percentage of trial-ready case dockets specifically for the JCPS cluster within this indicator. So this indicator will represent all of the case dockets that are marked trial ready for serious corruption within the public sector. We also have trial ready case dockets for serious corruption within the private sector reflected. The focus on serious organized crime effectively investigated, the indicator, the serious organized crime project investigations successfully closed. And then a key indicator within the DPCI, the percentage of identified clandestine laboratories dismantled with arrests, will be maintained. Commercial crime continues to feature, where the percentage of trial-ready case dockets will be addressed, and the percentage of serious cyber-related crimes support case files successfully investigated within 90 calendar days will also be reflected. The changes to the performance indicators in Program 3 are reflected, as well as those indicators that have been de-escalated to our National Policing Strategy Annual Operational Plan. Honourable Chairperson, Program 4, Crime Intelligence. You will note a slight increase in terms of the allocation to the budget to this particular program. When we look at the number of indicators, we've decreased the number from 12 to 10. And in terms of the actual performance indicators that feature within the two sub-programs that we have, the percentage of network operations relating to prioritized crime threats successfully terminated. In terms of this indicator, there's also been an adjustment in terms of the focus of the indicator. So this indicator will focus specifically on those crime threats that are dealt with by our policing capabilities within Program 2, Visible Policing, and Program 3, Detective and Forensic Services. Security clearances will continue to feature, as well as ICT security assessments finalized, and then the overt mandatory physical security assessments has also been included, and the numerical targets for the 3 indicators that I've just mentioned have also been increased for 23-24. Chairperson, the next 2 categories of indicators which talk to proactive intelligence reports relating to, again, prioritized crime threats at district, provincial, and national level. In terms of these 2 categories, proactive and reactive, the focus of these indicators has been changed specifically on those crime threats that impact on Program 2 and Program 3. So in terms of the reactive crime threats at district, national, provincial, and national level, the focus will be the same. Chairperson, the changes to the indicators are reflected, and then the indicators de-escalated. The percentage of cross-border operations facilitated as per Interpol member country requests, and arrests of identified transnational crime suspects will feature in our NPS AOP. Program 5, Protection and Security Services. This is a relatively stable program. There have not been any changes to the indicators. The budget reflected a slight increase in terms of the allocation, and the number of indicators remains consistent comparing 22-23 with 23-24. Members will be familiar with these indicators. Security breaches during in-transit, as well as security breaches at identified government installations and VIP residences. Target there 0. Strategic installations audited will also be included, as well as the evaluation of national key points by the Division Protection and Security Services. Looking at the component Presidential Protection Services, the number of security breaches during physical protection, similar to PSS, the number of security breaches at identified government installations and VIP residences. And then they will focus on a total of 11 key points for evaluation during 23-24. Chairperson, that brings me to the end of this section of the presentation. I will hand back to General Rabi with your permission. Thank you.
Chairperson, I will then deal with the last part of the presentation that relates to the additional information that was requested by the committee. And what we've done is we took the liberty to consolidate the request that we received from the committee with an earlier request in April. And so we identified a total of 14 aspects that we need to provide additional information on. Chair, I'm going to skip up to slide number 95 because the questions will be repeated as I deal with them in terms of the specific part of the presentation. The first slide on 96 talks to the breakdown of the budget. What we can report as far as that is concerned is that the allocation or the apportioning of the budget of the SAPS has not yet been finalized, but in terms of the provisional allocation, it is reflected below. Just noting that the allocation that is reflected there is for operational purposes, and it excludes towards the compensation portion of the budget. Just to highlight some, the highest allocation being made to Gauteng on 1.4 billion, KwaZulu-Natal 1.1 billion, Eastern Cape 900 million. The rest of the provinces are reflected. Going to the next slide, the request was which of the provinces and police stations have been prioritized. During the apportioning of the budget, the emphasis is on the allocation of the maximum financial resources to the respective provinces. We are still prioritizing our frontline services. And as a result of that, the allocation is then influenced by the actual number of personnel and capabilities in the respective provinces. The following priorities have been identified, and I'm going to go to the next slide just to highlight them in terms of specific allocations. The top 30 police stations or the high crime police stations in the country. Chairperson, you will note there's a total allocation of 65 million, with 10 million being given to each one of the larger provinces, and then a lower allocation to the other provinces. We're also focusing on GBV, the gender-based violence capabilities, as well as the FCS units. And there's the allocation that has been ring-fenced for that amounts to 100 million, with the distribution reflected there, with the highest allocations again going to the bigger provinces, 17 million for Gauteng, 15 for KwaZulu-Natal, and 13 million for the Eastern Cape. As far as the safety of police stations are concerned, we've allocated a total of 25 million, with a distribution to all 9 of the provinces. Again, highest allocations going to Gauteng, 4.8 million, KwaZulu-Natal, 4.7. As far as the buccal sample collection kits, that was a matter that the department prioritized in the past. We have, in terms of that, allocated a total of 50 million, with the distribution as reflected. And then the last portion of the prioritized part of the budget talks to the anti-gang units. We have these capabilities in 4 of the 9 provinces, and a total allocation of 26 million has been made to these capabilities in the 4 provinces. The next question, Chair, Honourable Chair, relates to the condition of police stations. What we have provided is a breakdown of the state-owned police buildings as well as the leased buildings. Chair will note at the bottom that we have a total of 1,059 police stations in the country. And then what we have classified them is according to an excellent condition, good, fair, or a very poor condition. For the purpose of the presentation, I will just focus on the buildings or the provinces where we have high number of police stations in a fair or very poor condition. Looking at fair, state-owned in Gauteng, we have 108 police stations, Limpopo 94, and KwaZulu-Natal 144 that is classified as being in a fair condition. When we look at the leased buildings, we have 27 in Gauteng, 3 in Limpopo, and 9 in KwaZulu-Natal. When we look at the stations that has been categorized as being in a very poor condition, state-owned, we have 84 in the Eastern Cape, 20 in KwaZulu-Natal, and 28 in the Free State, and leased buildings 3 in Eastern Cape, and then 0 in the other provinces that I've mentioned, but maybe just make reference to the 16 leased buildings in the Western Cape. The next slide talks to the allocation in terms of training. What we need to mention there, Chair, is that 215 million has been allocated for training and operational purposes, but we would like to highlight that 700 million has been reserved for expenditure that is associated with the trainees that are currently undergoing their basic training. The additional funding, when we talk to the recruitment and the filling of key vacancies, 2D, Chair, I think it is common knowledge now that we've received an additional allocation over the MTF to recruit additional personnel. And as indicated there, over the next 3 years, we will enlist a total of 10,000 per annum to strengthen our capabilities. We have also then made provision for the 240 posts to be allocated to the DPCI as far as the 23-24 project 10,000 is considered. The other processes in terms of recruitment and promotions, etc., we will be planning on an ongoing basis, and that needs to be done within the perimeters of what the budget allows for. In terms of key positions that are currently vacant, it is the DNC crime detection, and the intention is to fill that vacancy in the current financial year. The State of the Nation address, there was reference made by the President on the allocation of more resources for the South African Police Service. What we can report, Chair, is that a total of 13.6 billion was allocated in addition to the SAPS over the MTF period. And that will then allow for the enlistment of the police trainees that I've also that I've already mentioned in the previous slide, and 7.8 billion of the 13 billion will go for that. And then 5.8 billion will be used for the carry-through cost from the previous financial year in terms of the improvement of conditions of public sector employees that are employed by the South African Police Service. There was a question, Chair, that deals with how we are dealing with corruption. And it is correct that as a department, we have identified several organizational priorities, and the funding has been done according to these priorities, and corruption is one of the priorities that the department is going to address. The primary capabilities that deals with that is the DPCI and the detective service environment within specific focus on organized crime, etc. We have also deployed 2 members that is part of the Detective Service Anti-Corruption Unit to Mpumalanga to deal with the current corruption within the energy sector that has been identified in the province. And we have organized crime investigation specialized task team in the relevant provinces that deals with cases that relate to critical infrastructure, etc. The strengthening of the SAPS, slide number 103. Chair, I've already dealt with the 10,000 that we will be recruiting. Maybe just for the purpose of the meeting, refer to the allocation, where we are planning to allocate personnel on the current members that are being trained for public order policing. The allocation will go towards the public order policing capability, our 10111 centers, our FCS units, crime intelligence, and our criminal record and crime sector, crime scene management capabilities. The DPCI we will continue with the capacitation of DPCI. I've made earlier reference to the additional allocation that we are planning, and to capacitate them in terms of their investigative capabilities that deals with national priority offenses. As the visible policing environment is concerned, we will then also continue to conduct proactive operation in terms of our 5-pillar planning methodology to address specific hotspots area, where as far as these specific crimes, including kidnapping, extortion, and illegal mining is concerned. On the next slide, the theft of copper. What we've done there, Chair, it also includes metal from electricity systems, train lines, and public infrastructure. We have established 20 economic infrastructure teams in all 9 of the provinces, Chair. Currently, these task teams, economic infrastructure task teams, are functioning on a temporary basis. We are currently conducting an work-study investigation to permanently establish these capabilities in the relevant provinces. We have, as far as the current financial year is concerned, allocated a specific ring-fence budget to these capabilities that will primarily be used for the procurement of the resources that they need, including the vehicles, cellular telephones, notebooks, specialized equipment, the observation equipment, etc. On slide number 105, Chair, we just give an indication to the committee the priority areas that I've referred to. Where are they? The top 30 contact crime stations, the GBV hotspot areas, the GBV desk, and the economic infrastructure task teams. I'm not going to read through them. Just a correction, Chair, when we sent the presentation through, the establishment of the EITTs in the last column, we had 22 in brackets. That is a typo, it must be 20. So on the slide, the members, honorable members of the committee can get an indication of where these are situated. Now, in addition to the establishment of these economic infrastructure task teams, we also have various interdepartmental and multidisciplinary committees that deals with non-ferrous metals type of crime combating. We have, for instance, the non-ferrous metal crime combating committee, the rail crime combating forums, and the ESCOM priority committee at both national and provincial levels. Now, these committees are then responsible for the coordinating and consolidating of the government efforts to address the non-ferrous metals related crimes, the damage and impact of crime on our essential infrastructure, the illicit trade, and we do that in partnership with the state-owned enterprises that includes, for instance, Eskom, Telkom, Transnet, and municipalities. We then give a breakdown. I'm not going to read through that, what these committees are responsible for. I will go to the next slide on 107 that deals with the 10111. As we are aware, this has been prioritized by the President in the State of the Nation address as well. So we are currently in collaboration with the Office of the President in the Presidency dealing with the optimizing of the 10111 call centers as part of the Vulindlela 10111 reform project. This will include, as far as the second question about the use of data-driven methods is concerned, while we are busy with this project with the 10111, at the same time, we will also then deal with the development of specific data-driven methods to do a proper analysis of crime patterns, etc. The strengthening of whistleblower protection. Now, what we can report on is in terms of how it is being approached in SAPS, the informers are protected through the confidentiality secrecy agreement between the handler and the informer itself. And then all whistleblowers that are witnesses in criminal cases are protected through the Witness Protection Act. And this is specifically the emphasis specifically in the DPCI environment where these type of investigations are conducted, but not saying that some of these cannot be done within the detective service environment. The next slide is the GBV allocation. Now, during the two previous financial years, Chair, we've allocated 100 million per annum to each one of the financial year to deal with gender-based violence and the implementation of the gender-based violence and sexual offences action plan, as well as the resourcing of the FCS units. Now, in addition to the 1.3 billion that we spend annually on the FCS unit in terms of capability development, we've allocated this 100 million that I've referred to. And it is envisaged that we will have a similar allocation in the current financial year. We are planning to allocate approximately 10 million to the conducting of awareness campaigns that deals with your vulnerable groups, your MBSOs, our strategies, conferences, etc. When you look at the budget in terms of the Firearm Control Act, Chair, there's a detailed explanation provided. What we can do is just to confirm that this budget allocation has been made. Now, in addition to the baseline allocation in the previous financial year, we allocated 30 million for the activities that is associated with firearm licensing, and we are planning to have a similar allocation in the current financial year to deal with the activities that are highlighted on this slide and the next one. That I just want to highlight some of the activities that include your background evaluation, the investigations to determine whether a person is fit to possess a firearm. So all of those activities are then listed on the slide, and it continues on the next slide. But for the purpose of the presentation, I will move to slide number 112, where the question was, what is the adjusted SAPS national capital work budget over the 23-25 medium term? Now, what we have received is the letter from National Treasury indicating that for capital works projects, there will be specifically an exclusive appropriated to the SAPS includes the following: 1.003 billion in year 1, 1.048 billion year 2, and 1.095 billion in year 3. But just noting that this might be subject to review by National Treasury. This also then addresses the next question, where we can indicate that 1.003 billion has been allocated in terms of the current financial year. Percentage and value of contingency reserve. Now, Chair, the contingency reserve of the South African Police Service is a relatively small amount, and it's determined on an annual basis. Now, as a result of the budget reductions that we have faced over the last couple of years, this is quite a smaller or a limited amount, and it's determined by the CFO in consultation with management, and it is not necessarily as a percentage of the budget, but it will be determined in line with specific priorities, etc., that has been identified. The civil claims in terms of court action brought by SAPS members, as well as civil claims itself. Now, the estimated value of approximately 350 million we anticipate to receive from the State Attorney's Office in the 23-24 financial year for litigation action on behalf of the South African Police Service. Next slide. The legislation. Chair, it is the Civilian Secretariat for Police Service is responsible for the development, etc., of legislation. We participate in that process. And the two that has been prioritized for the upcoming financial year is the South African Police Service Act 95 and the Firearms Control Act for the year 2000. Then we were requested to indicate whether we have done any assessment on the satisfaction of communities. Now, what we have done, Chair, is in 21, the South African Police Service with the University of South Africa conducted a customer satisfaction survey. And as a result of that, we have developed a number of indicators that I just want to quickly touch on. That is perception-based indicators. The public satisfaction with SAPS performance index was determined at 50.7%. The confidence index for SAPS to create a safe and secure environment was at 41.64%. The satisfaction with response times was 51.24%, and the feedback on complaints index was 40.7%. And then the SAPS confidence and trust index was established at 44.14%, just to highlight a few of the indicators that we have developed. Now, unfortunately, the sample that was included in that study was too small to do a disaggregation to provinces. But what we are doing now, Chair, in the current financial year, we have commissioned a new survey to determine whether there's levels of improvement, but we have requested that the sample be increased so that we can have a disaggregation according to the provinces. And at the same time, we have aligned our service delivery improvement initiatives with these issues that has been identified during the services, and we will then focus on response to crime or incidents, support to victims of crime, crime prevention, and then investigation of crime and feedback to complainants. The next question was about whether the previous financial statements show material losses, etc. Now, what we can report on here is that the previous financial statements did not report on any material losses through criminal conduct. There was no losses as a result of any unauthorized or fruitless and wasteful expenditure that was reported that had occurred during that specific financial year. But the confirmed fruitless and wasteful expenditure reported in a financial statement was similar to other financial years and was not material in nature. It was also reported that we had 28 fruitless and wasteful incidents that required disciplinary steps to be instituted against employees. But again, this was not material in nature. And then subsequent to these fruitless and wasteful expenditure being confirmed, we had a liability determination to determine whether the recovery can be initiated against the specific employees. And we reported that 75 fruitless and wasteful incidents were determined to be recoverable and from SAPS employees or other parties, but as such, those were not material as well. Honourable Chair, that concludes the presentation. As what we've presented is the budget for SAPS, the APP for the current financial year, as well as a response to the 14 matters that we have received from the committee. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Deputy Minister, if you have anything you want to wrap up.
No, I think let's allow committee members to ask. Thanks a lot for the opportunity to present, Chairperson. Thanks very much.
No, thank you very much. Let me thank you, Deputy Minister, as well as the National Commissioner and your entire team for that presentation, as well as keeping within the time that we requested you to deal with that. I think that being said, on members, we have the presentation from the department with a budget of 102.13 billion, which is allocated to the department. On members, I'm going to, it's actually your time to interact with the presentation. I'm going to perhaps request this from you, honorable members, because I know in terms of our previous experience as well, members tend to have a lot of questions for clarity or questions that they'd like to ask. Can I propose that we stick to 3 or 4 questions per member? And then following that process, if there's any other burning issue that a member has, then perhaps they could perhaps raise that as well. I see the hands of Honorable Smith, Honorable Tetwa, Honorable Maleka. Let me just start as the hands are raised. Honorable Smith.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. My apology for not putting up my video, network issues with the load shedding. Chair, I've got about 3 questions, if you can just indulge with me. Okay, the first question is for clarification. According to Stats SA provincial mid-year population estimate for 2022, Eastern Cape is 6.676691 million, and the Western Cape is 7.212142 million. This translates to a percentile distribution of 11% to Eastern Cape and 11.9% for the Western Cape. Considering that one of the main factors that influence resource allocation to provinces in the size of population of that province, why would the 2023 provincial budget allocation for the Eastern Cape be 894 million, and the Western Cape 807 million, and the 2023-2024 be for the Eastern Cape 901 million and the Western Cape 809 million? That's my first question. My second question, Chair, is regards to the destruction of infrastructure, especially with metal theft. I want to hear if the delegation can maybe give an indication of any legislative restrictions where improvements can be made to capacitate them more to act on these crimes and curb the specific issue, as it is really having a big impact on all South Africans in terms of electricity supply, cell phone network, and I mean the cost for replacing that infrastructure. Then, Chair, my third question would be regarding the administrative responsibility at police stations, in terms of affidavits, and certifying documentation. And I've raised this before. Because it is taking away a lot of resources that can rather be used on the ground for police visibility and actually investigation capacity and so forth, and crime prevention. Isn't it possible to, firstly, to digitize a lot of these processes? I think, in terms of the capacity of computer systems and whatever, where you have like a self-help a station where you enter a police station and be able to select, from a table of choices, in terms of what type of crime or whatever the case may be. And then, putting in the details, scanning your ID, all those kind of things. And then it prints out, and then an officer can only, do the actual certification and signature and all of that. Because that can save a lot of time in terms of processing that. And then secondly, especially when it comes to certification of documents, because police stations are overwhelmed by the number of people that's coming just to certify documents, and that sometimes disturbs or limits the ability to actually open cases. That possibly being separated, from the police, that it is, that there's a specific, I don't know, I don't have the exact solution on that, but I mean that you have a office for certification that specifies on that, and that it does not necessarily take away manpower from the police in terms of officers that's capable. Thirdly, Chair, and then the another thing on the. Sorry, another thing on digitization is in terms of opening cases, that you are able to register a case online and then actually do the paperwork, when a officer is available. So that's another way, so that we ease the process of opening cases or registering cases for that matter, and then the process towards opening. Then the last thing is just a comment, Chair, and that is from the Mokopane police station. They want to say thank you very much for the 2 new recruits that was allocated to them, which was very necessary. However, they ask if there's new recruits coming in, that please they will be considered for that as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Smith. Honourable Mthethwa.
No, thank you very much, Chair. Mine will be the quick one, Chair. The first one, Chair, I've noticed that in their program 1, they've also mentioned the new issue of recruitee, the 13.6 budget. Does that cater for all the 3 years, because they are given a schedule of recruiting them in 3 years? Would also going to cater for their increase in terms of the for that budget. And also, I also learned that, Chair, that they also planned to deal with the issue of let me check quickly, Chair, my notes here. The pay progression, cost of living. Is this matter not covered in their bargaining processes? How do they budget for such things? Since I know some of these matters are being part of their bargaining element. And the last one, Chair, the one before the last, is the issue of the conditions of police station that are being prioritized. I've noticed, Chair, that in KZN, if you look at KZN, all of those police stations, none of them that are sitting in the excellence and very good, very few in the very good section. What does that tell to the Commissioner? If all of this police station in KZN are in this terrible state, And KZN is also being classified as one of the area that's got high crime. And I'm also worried if the anti-gang unit is not also even budgeted in KZN, because we're seeing a lot of elements that also talk to issues of anti-gang crime in the province. Does that mean that in KZN there is no more anti-gang crime if it is not been budgeted? So those are the issues, Chair, that I would like the presenter to answer me. Or maybe the very last, Chair, is the issue of the 75 issues that has been raised by the committees. I said I've seen in the statement that they said it's possible that they can reclaim out of those 75, but how many that they successfully claim? I know they said it's possible that they can claim up to 75. Is there any of those 75 that they've claimed successfully? If so, I would appreciate if they can give us a clear answer on that one. I thank you, Comrade Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Tetwa. Honorable Maleka.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, Deputy Minister, officials, and the members and the support staff. Chairperson, I want to raise just 3 questions. My first one is on slide 4, where it reflects the spending focus for the medium term. We note and appreciate the various areas that are listed. However, there is no mention of ensuring that police stations have sufficient vehicles in working order. Can the department can they please clarify what is being done to address this important issue, which the committee has raised on several oversight visits? The second one, on slide 44, what is the department envisioning for these imbizos in communities? Will the imbizos also elicit information from the communities themselves in relation to their expectations of the police? What will the imbizos cover in terms of information dissemination? The last one on slide 59, Chairperson, DNA database, the committee noted that SAPS had problems previously in relation to the backlog of DNA samples. How far has SAPS come in addressing these backlogs and resolving the issue in relation thereto? What challenges still remain? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Maleka. Honorable Bartlett.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Sorry, Chair, for not switching on my video. Chairperson, I just have 3 questions to ask to SAPS. Under Program 1, Chair, on slide 25, why is the indicator so low for the number of new police stations, and what informed this indicator? And then secondly, Chairperson, with regard to the 10.111 reform project on slide 45, can the committee be given more information on some of the initial steps being undertaken to achieve this target? And lastly, Chair, with regard to border security on slide 50 and onwards, please give the committee an indication of the current challenges that SAPS is encountering in relation to the securing of borders and how these challenges are being addressed. And Chair, please also clarify how the establishment of the Border Management Authority will impact the role of SAPS moving forward in respect of border control, and at what stage this implementation is at currently. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Bartlett. Honorable Dlamini.
Thank you very much, Chair. Mine is very short. I just wanted to get clarity from the department in terms of what happens to the security of actual police officers, because we are reading now someone getting shot in a mobile police station, and how is that possible? That what sort of security enforcement is there in police facilities that a criminal can actually enter a premises where there's police officers and shoot someone to their fatal death? I also want to know, the second question would be, in terms of storage facilities of files where cases are stored, what is being done in the case of Ugu, where we did oversights, where there was a mess in terms of the storage facility? And what is the immediate remedial action in terms of storage of files within police stations? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Dlamini. Honorable Motsamai. Motsamai.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Honorable Motsamai.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, last year I'm audible, Chairperson.
Yes, you are. Perhaps switch off your video. Yes.
Yes, I did. Yeah. I want to ask General Masemola, last year on November on the 12th, there was a man who was a 55-year-old man who was arrested in Mondia, case number 209-11-2022, who was kidnapping, who was on the mission to kidnap. He was arrested by the team of consisting of the SAPS anti-kidnapping task team, organized K99 and JNPD. This man was arrested with 3 firearms, unlicensed firearms, and 7 South African false identity document. And on the 4th day, he was granted bail. And now, my concern is the police and IO who instruct the court to provide a person with a bail, if it's a high risk or not a high risk. How do you see these corrupt police officers who are being given the criminals case a bail without fear? What happened with them, the whistleblowers? Because I was there. I'm the one who gave the police that case after being given the case by a whistleblower. And the man was given a bail of 20,000 after promising to pay a police 5 million. What happened with that case? Because it was on Monday, it was transferred to provincial. Another question that I want to ask, Chair, there are police stations that they don't have light and they have been closed on 9 o'clock. One of that police is Rankua police station. What happened with those police stations? Why can't they have, if they have a problem of generator, why can't they put solar panels so that the people can come to the police station and open the case freely? I thank you, Chair. No, Chair. There's a case, there's short of cars. The CIDs in Orange Farm, they don't have transport to go and arrest or investigate. When you have opened the case and when there's a criminal, the people, they spotted the very person that is a perpetrator, they will just inform that we don't have cars. I went to Orange Farm and I find that they have only 1 car for the CIDs. They don't have a cars. What makes them that they don't have cars? Because there are a lot of cars. Some of those cars, they say they don't have a clutch plates. What happened with those issues? How do they fix those cars? I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Motsamai. Honorable Dodovu.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, for the opportunity. Let me firstly acknowledge the DM and the team for the presentation that they made before us. Clearly, it indicates that there are a lot of challenges, and as a country, we're facing serious high levels of crime, and we really need a paradigm shift. change the way we are doing things so that in a more practical way, we impact on saving the lives of the people and making our country a better country. Now, Honorable Chair, I don't want the police service to regard the appearance before this committee as an annual ritual that this time around the year, they've got to come before us, present their annual performance plan, present their budget. We know what their intentions are, and they go. For me, it is quite important that we need to hear the impact of this budget as well as the work of the police, whether are they making great strides or not. And then for me, I don't want this to be like every year and now lately quarterly, the police minister come before the country, he presents the crime statistics. For me, that is not enough. We are in trouble and we need to see visible impact. We need to see clear-cut results. We need to see changes in the work of the police as well as the budget that they are allocated to them. 1.2 billion rands or 102 billion rands might not be sufficient given the work that the police are expected to do, but this is money that is on the table, and as Parliament, I think we need to see some results registered in line with how we must tackle crime as one of the most pressing challenges facing our country. I thought perhaps I must make that statement before I deal with all the issues that I want to deal with. Yes, I thought that I must say that point, but I'll also come to it when I conclude my questions and my perspectives. Chair, one of the research points to the fact that police service delivery is a problem in South Africa, and some of the issues that are highlighted include insufficient physical and aging resources, extended unproductive meetings that are held, building infrastructure and challenges. And I would like to see this budget focusing more to those particular areas that impact directly to service delivery. And that also includes law morale within the police service, as well as community police relationship that must be improved in order to enhance our efforts to tackle crime. For me, that is quite important. And just looking at this budget, I see there and there, these issues highlighted, while the research points to the fact that these are the key issues that are affecting the police service delivery, because what is quite important at the end of the day is that the police must deliver on their mandate and be successful, especially in dealing with serious crimes that are afflicting our country. For me, that is quite important, especially on areas of murder, on areas of rape, homicide, as well as GBV. For me, that is quite important, and it is not just enough to say this is the budget, but our focus is on these particular issues. And at the end of the day, we don't really see all the required results, and can the country or the people of this country see the police in a particular way, in a bad light. And for me, that is not okay. Now, Honorable Chair, I'm from the Northwest. I'm from the Northwest, and I want to say that 2 years ago, I together with the team that I headed, we dealt with the intervention in the Northwest province. the police gave us about 95 cases that border on corruption, on fraud, on maladministration, and the stealing and pillaging of public resources. And with the presentations that we got from the police at the time, including the Hogs by General Lebeya, we were quite confident that important strides will be made in respect of dealing with those particular issues, because the government of the people of the Northwest Province collapsed, and those allegations were there, and the police instituted some investigation. But today, it is worrisome that no impact, and in some cases, we were informed that arrests are imminent. We are about to finalize these matters. We are just talking to the prosecuting authority so that we finalize this issue. Almost all, some exceptions are there, very few exceptions are there. Almost all of these cases are stacked. And that doesn't speak well of the role of the police in the Northwest. And I would like some responses on that. Or maybe out of this, we need to ensure that as this committee, we follow up those particular matters, because they are very much important, and the police promised us to deal effectively with those particular challenges. And today they have not dealt with them, and questions are being asked in the Northwest in terms of what happened to those particular cases. I'm from the city of Klerksdorp. The deputy minister knows that. He has visited this area on quite a number of occasions. The gangsterism that is perpetuated here, it is out of question. People are being killed, people are being harassed, and all of that, and all the gang-related activities. And what the people of this area don't see is an effort, a consistent, deliberate effort on the part of the police to attend to this particular issue of gangsterism that is perpetuated unabatedly, and we need answers, and the police need to respond on this particular issue, because it really affects our people on the ground. And the perception that they have about the police service is not very good because of this thing. We can't be a lawless state. We can't be a state where it's run by gangsters, and there are no appropriate interventions in that respect. The Zamazamas are ruling. I'm not sure how many times did the police minister himself come and visit this particular area. Just this past week, there was a person who was arrested because he was holding 14 hand grenades in his possession, right in my township. And that demonstrates the extent in which all of these things are happening. And what we don't see is a well-coordinated, well-advanced effort to ensure that we deal with issues of zamazamas within our communities. And we hear a lot of allegations about the acts of criminality that are perpetuated by these zamazamas in the townships. And without a coherent way of dealing with this becomes a very serious problem to our people, and this must be attended to. Lastly, Chair, I want to deal with issues of anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism. The strategy that ostensibly is in place has not been made public in the way that everybody has got to see it. And a lot of people have not contributed in terms of making inputs into that particular strategy, especially the strategy on counter-terrorism. Counter-terrorism, especially its financing in our country, is a reality. Anti-money laundering problems are a reality in our country. Today, we are grey-listed as a result of those particular problems. And this must come in the open so that they are discussed, and all the role players need to play part in terms of making some proposals in terms of what needs to do. But the police must lead the charge in terms of putting up the necessary systems and structures in place to ensure that we deal with issues of money laundering as well as counter-terrorism, because they arrive and sitting back and not doing anything or not doing much about it, it will put our country into disrepute. And that is why today we are grey listed in the way that we are. We need to get out of that great listing because it has profound negative implications for the country as a whole, especially from an economic point of view. And my view is that we need to have platforms where these particular issues are discussed and taken forward. For now, Honorable Chair, I'll pause there. I had a lot of issues, but I'm sure those that I raised are sufficient and they warrant a response. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Dodobo. Honorable Visser, welcome back to our meeting. I take it you alternating for one of your members. Honorable Visser?
Thank you. I'm the third member of this committee. Honorable, thank you for enjoying some time again with you guys. And good day to all colleagues. I cannot agree more. I just want to confirm here that I cannot agree more with what Honorable Dodobo has shared with you. I just want to add to that we sit with stock theft cases for the past 4 years. I have submitted it already several times to SAPS in Northwest, also to the national structures, and nothing has come forward. We sit with upcoming farmers that cannot make ends meet due to the fact that their stock are stolen and their livestock, and there's absolute no thorough investigation. Although there's enough evidence, there's no investigation done. Nobody gets to the court. We've got high-profile guys that work for the Department of Education that until now nothing has happened to them, stealing about 300 heads of cattle in that area, of which most of them came from upcoming farmers and small farmers in the villages. We need to have police there, policing there, so that we can restore law and order. And I want to plead with the police that in that area in Northwest. We sit literally in the rural areas where farmers and private security companies must do policing. There is no policing there. And we need that to be restored as soon as possible. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Visser. Honorable Mtetwa, is that a legacy hand?
No, Chair. I just want to raise one more question, if I may be allowed, Chair. I'll be very quick.
Yeah, please continue.
No, thank you very much, Chair, for your indulgence in that question. I just want to ask direct to the Minister and the Commissioner there. These days we are seeing a show. I don't know whether all of you see this show. It's called in one of the Mzazis. They are dealing with drugs. I'm dealing this in connection with this organized crime, special drugs. There is a show that always on TV. Normally, Chair, they show us police or whoever that chap is. I don't know whether they are acting or is the real thing, where they are catching people dealing with drugs, thousands and dollars of drugs. And when they do some follow-up again, those people you see them being released and without even seeing the magistrate. There was one area where they showed this thing. I just want to ask if this is not acting, Chair. And you think that the police need to take that seriously and also ensure that they monitor these things and we get the real result? Because these guys that are doing serious work, people get arrested, they are found with a number of drugs, but we don't know whether that is real or it's just a show? Can we be explained, Chair, about that thing? If it's so, is it getting attention to the department? Because those people are really doing a great job. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mtetwa. My apologies. Right. No, thank you very much, Honorable Mtetwa. I was just checking the chat group.
No, but just my hand was up, Chair.
Honorable Mtetwa, Honorable Mosamai.
Yes, Chair. Chairperson, I would like to ask General Masemola. There are a group of people. They call themselves anti in Ekurhuleni. They call themselves Tata Zonke. This Sunday, a councillor was killed, and with the gangsters, they went and arrested those people. There are people who hijacked the cars. These people, they arrest them, and there are car haste. These people also, a number of cases, they arrest the people. They are now trusting these people. They are working hand in hand with the police. Can't they go and see if these people can be the police? Can they assist the police fluently and be the police officers? I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mosamai, and all honorable members for those questions. I think that they've raised quite a few pertinent issues. I just have two maybe from my side before I hand over then to the department, to DM. The first question relates to the DPCI, especially in terms of what the current status of DPCI investigations into state capture are. But also due to the fact that there are capacity constraints within the department, is the DPCI able to effectively address state capture? The issue that was also raised by Honorable Dodovo, the grey listed status of South Africa, and to increase investigations and arrests related to money laundering and terror financing. And also if we could be furnished with what the challenges are and what is being done to resolve any challenges. And I think my final question is with regard to the customer satisfaction surveys that have been undertaken by the department. And I think it's also reflected in slide 115 of the presentation. The question being, what are the key lessons that the department has derived from these surveys moving forward? I think those are the last two questions from myself. That being said, DM, let me hand over to yourself and and your team so that you can respond to the issues that members have raised. Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks to members of the committee for the questions that have been raised. I should say, Chair, that we don't view our appearance here as a compliant matter that we must come and say this is our plan, this is our budget. We know and understand that we account to the committee, and also we also get to have a better understanding of the things that we must do and how we can do them better out of interfacing with yourselves, because you give us a perspective from an outsider who is not necessarily in the thick of things like we do. We can think we are doing a good job while we are literally not doing a good job. So we fully understand what is expected of us, and we don't view our interaction with you in that light. And I believe that as we interact and you also expecting certain things from ourselves, things will be done in such a manner that when we come to respond to the issues, we are responding guided by the requests that the committee has made. And obviously, if there is a need for us to expand or to have a different approach altogether in terms of how we come and explain ourselves to you, we will be more than willing and ready to come to the party to respond, guided by the leadership of the NCOP. Yes, we have been to Klerksdorp. We have observed the issues that the community have raised with us, and we have responded. Some of the issues have been successfully dealt with, and I think, Chair, as the National Commissioner and the team respond, we will request that the Provincial Commissioner of Northwest, General Kwena, elaborate a bit on the things that we have done in that part of our country, responding to issues that the communities there have raised, the issues that Honorable Dodovo and other honorable members who come from the area have raised with us. There are other members of parliament who have raised things with me around Klerksdorp, and we have dealt with those issues working together with General Kwena. I'm not saying we don't have other challenges in the area. We do have. I'm happy that Honorable Dodovo indicated that we have arrested a person with 14 hand grenades. And I believe he means that this person was arrested by police. He did not arrest himself. So we do work. We do have officers who are doing work. And of course, we do have officers who don't do their work, but they are a minority in terms of the personnel in SAPS that have a responsibility to ensure that we have a safer environment. I think some of the issues that have been raised, Chair, the National Commission and the team will talk to that. The issue of capacity, yes, we have always complained that there is a need to capacitate SAPS, both personnel and with equipment that we need to utilize to fight crime. We have considered, Chair, that there is a shortage, and we are addressing that phenomenon, led by the President, supported by the Minister of Finance in this regard. We, in terms of the resources at our disposal, we had budgeted to train 5,000 new recruits in the past financial year. But through the leadership of the President and the support of the Minister of Finance, that number has been increased, and we were able to train what we called Project 10,000, because we're given an additional 5,000. Even this financial year, we were going to train 5,000 in terms of our budget, and there have been an intervention for us to train 10,000. So this is done to respond to the shortcoming that is there, the shortage, which of course was precipitated by what we did in the police in the past years, wherein annually police officers were retiring because in the space people must leave at the age of 60. And of course, there have been decisions taken by those who came before us to try and encourage people to leave the service, as there was a campaign to try and cut down on the public service that we have. And police were not spared that. When you reach a particular age, not necessarily 60, people were allowed to take packages, and they did. And that had an impact on the number of officers that we have. What we had in 2010 and what we have now is not the same. We have less officers today than we had in 2010, despite the fact that the population has grown. We are talking of South Africa that has over 60 million people. And in 2010, we had 52 million people. So if the personnel that we had then is more than what we have now, you can understand the type of shortage that we'll have. Hence the need for the community to play a central role in the fight against crime. Without community involvement, this challenge is going to compound the situation. So it is important that we strengthen that arm, and we are working together with provinces to resolve the challenge around CPF. As you know, that CPFs are a structure that is more a voluntary. People who serve they are volunteers. It was not a structure that was initiated with a view of people who become CPF members who are going to be assisted in one form or the other. But we have come to conclude that, yes, we need to devise means to enable them to do their work. So we're discussing, guided by the model that the Gauteng is using, to give resources to CPFs, and we'll want to see that happening throughout the country. And in that regard, through the MINMEC, we are discussing means and ways of how that should be addressed. And we believe if we resolve the issue of CPF in a way, we will have taken, it will be a step in the right direction in our fight against crime, because we can't wait until we have the appropriate number of officers for us to fight crime. We must fight crime today, and communities are key and central in that regard. I will allow the National Commissioner and the team and the head of the DPCI, the national head of the DPCI, General Lebeya, to talk to some of the questions that members have raised, which will need specific responses. Through you, Chair, if you may allow, I'll the National Commissioner to lead in the responses to the question, and he will then ask relevant people to talk to the issues that have been raised. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, DM, and my apology for the interruption as well, because I just see Honorable Radeve's hand is up. I just want to get clarity from him in terms of what is he raising. Honorable Radeve?
Honorable Chairperson, thank you so much, and to you and the Honorable Deputy Minister and the team. I just wanted to, my network is playing out with me. I just wanted to place a request that if time allows, you would fit me in, because I have just one or two questions that I wanted to raise. Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Yeah, Honorable Radeve, it's unprecedented, but I proposed you raise your two questions now, so that when the department, unless you wait for the department to respond, and if your questions are not addressed, then maybe we can take them, unless they're specific to KZN.
No. I can wait, Honorable Chairperson.
Okay, great.
I can wait to see if I'm not addressed in the responses. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Radeve. DM, as you've indicated, you're handing it over to the National Commissioner.
Yes,
Over to you. Thanks. Thanks.
Thanks, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members. On the first question of Honorable Smith, the allocation of the budget, General Dimpano will add on that, but we also, beside the population in the provinces, we also take into account the police population in the specific province, because they need resources in terms of from our telephones, vehicles, stationery, and also all other assets. So that's what is also looked at, but General Limpan will also add on that one. And then on the question of the functions of police stations regarding certifying of documents, most of our police stations where there is space, the area for certifying is demarcated separately. And we acknowledge that it is not a function that actually is supposed to be done only at the police station, because commissioners of oath is quite a lot. Most departments, all councillors, they are commissioners of oath. But it is unfortunate that where services are given, the service providers, they quite often refer people back. If they certified at the post office, for example, they demand certification by the police. Probably that's the culture that we need to start educating our community at some point for them to accept certification from other quarters. But it is a good suggestion. We will look at it from the IT point of view. I think it is a good suggestion. Also, registering cases online is also a good input that our IT department should look into. But however, it might at the same time pose some challenges as to how are you going to certify or administer or certify or make take an affidavit online. So, but General Mavuta from IT should look into that. It's a good suggestion that we can look forward and see how we can. We know in some countries there are self-help police stations. So we need to look at it, and I think it's a good suggestion. There was a question by Honorable Mteto on the issue around budgeting over a 3-year medium term. Yes, we have been given these figures, 10,000 over a 3-year medium term as a carry through for the recruitment of new police. And with regard to the question on, I think the question was more why we are, I think it was more that the bargaining councils and so on have determined those percentages in terms of pay progression and cost of living. In this case, the bargaining bodies, they only determine the percentage increase, but they do not have budget at all to pay for this. It is each department that needs to pay whatever has been agreed upon. The Department of Public Service Administration will then communicate to the departments to say, these are the agreements that have been done, but it is up to each department to find out where they're going to get money to pay those increases or pay progressions that have been decided at those bargaining bodies. But General Dimpan can also add on that one. And also General Dimpan on the issue of the 75 claimable cases. On the question around whether vehicles are in working order by Honorable Mthethwa, we did currently we are part of a contract of the National Treasury in terms of the servicing of vehicles. We are looking at the modalities of this contract in order to better how best can we service our cars. We are engaging and we are at advanced stage. I'm sure we'll be able to finalize it within a period of 2 months with a view to improve how best can we service our cars. On the question of the focus of the Mbizos, the 180 provincial and 20 national, depending on the area, some areas we focus on gangsterism, some areas we focus on GPV, some areas will focus on stock theft and or violent crime. It depends on the areas with respect to wherever the crime is happening. We plan them accordingly, divide them according to the provinces in terms of the crime threat. But as and when the year goes on, if there is a new threat or a problem, for example, like now, we have a problem in Komachola, in Port St. John's. So it means we will have a diversion to that area and engage in some policing activities and engage in the community in that regard. There was a question on more information on the project on 10.1. General Dimpani is a representative of the department and the presidency with regard to this. But what this project aims to focus on is to improve the technology we have within the 10.1, and secondly, will also beef up in terms of police personnel. But moreover, we are partnering with the private more contemporary technology. And then with regard to a question by Honorable Dlamini on the safety of police officers. On the second presentation, slide 98, there is, per each province, there is a specific allocation of budget there, which equals 25 million in total. So that specific money is to address the safety of police officers, especially at police stations, where we have police stations that do not have either gates or they don't have a fence, to improve in the security there with regard to including CCTVs and so on, which I think somewhere is given that we have, for the past financial year, we have done 45 sites and we have planned more in this coming financial year. But in terms of the members themselves, we make sure that we do give them firearms for self-defense, and secondly, we take them continuously to in-service training with a view to make them operational ready. The PCKZN will come in on the UHU files. Honorable Mtsamai, with regard to the 65-year-old man arrested, I'll ask the PC Gauteng to talk on that. But however, as you are aware, we do make arrests, and from there we open a docket, submit statements, and we normally would oppose bail. But at the end of the day, the decision to give the bail will be that of the presiding officer, which is the magistrate. The police and the prosecutor will jointly oppose bail, but in this specific case, I do not have the modalities. I can't tell you whether we oppose bail or not, but the Provincial Commissioner Gauteng, I would like that he dwell more on this specific case. On also the issue of the police station without lights, I think the honorable member mentioned Garangua Police Station, which closes at night. Yes, I acknowledge Garangua Police Station had a problem. As you are aware that most of the infrastructure, construction and repairs, we rely on the Department of Public Works. At this specific police station, last year exactly this time, but I think it was in May, myself and the Minister of Police, we went to the same police station because of the problem of lights. And we discovered that the power, the substation that supply electricity to the station, which they share with the pathology next door, had a problem. And we engaged our supply chain with Public Works, and we were able to do some adjustment on interim. And since then, last year, I think around June, July, the station have got electricity continuously over 24 hours. Of course, when there is load shedding, there are 2 generators at the police station that are functioning. And our supply chain, together with the DPW, are currently in the process of building a separate substation for the police station alone on itself, but currently is out of the problem. And yes, we do have some that still encounter some problems, but we are attending to them. On the orange farm, I will ask the PC how to respond on that. And on matters of Honorable Dodogu, I'll also ask the head of DPCI to answer on some of these matters. Yes, I'm aware that we have been grey listed as a country. We had a team that attended the assessment by FATF, and that team, as we speak currently, which is a interdepartmental team, we still have it in the country, and they are continuously working, implementing a plan with a view to rectify all matters. The honourable member should be aware that the Poktatara legislation has been amended and passed. So we are working as interdepartmental teams together with organized crime from the relevant departments with a view to change the status where we are. But General Libya will talk more in this regard. And the PC Northwest on the Rustenburg gangsterism. And yeah, I think I will then hand over to, we'll first start with Lieutenant General Dimpani, followed by General Libya, followed by the PC Northwest on stock theft, and followed by PC KwaZulu-Natal on the Ugu, in that order. General Dimpani.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. I will touch on the questions that related to the additions that the National Commissioner has requested me. Indeed, in relation to the allocation of the budget to cost centers, there's quite a number of aspects that we take into account over and above the ones that the National Commissioner has mentioned. We also take into account baseline allocations of a preceding financial year, functions shifting, as well as affordability in terms of inflationary increases per category of spending, reprioritization by cost centers within existing baselines. We also take into account, we request provinces to give us spending proposals in terms of those that cannot be accommodated within their baselines. We take that into account. I must just indicate also that we take into account all priorities that may have been identified by the accounting officer as well as the executive authority. So there's quite a number of aspects, and then we utilize the particular formula to allocate this funding to cost centers. There is an issue in relation to cost of living adjustments, where I indicated on slide 11 that no provision was made. When we received our allocation letters, Chair, no provision was made to all departments. However, this particular agreement has since been signed. We have submitted our calculations as SAPS to National Treasury. We believe that these allocations will be made to departments during budget adjustments in this regard. There was also a question on the 75 cases on fruitless expenditure, whether we are recovering. Chair, I can indicate to say these ones we had investigated and determined in terms of the National Treasury framework. We had determined who is liable, whether there was negligence and who is to be held responsible. We finalized those processes and we determined that indeed we need to recover those amounts from those individuals. Recovery processes are currently underway. We do have processes in place where we would then record this, investigate and determine who's liable. If we determine that you are liable, then we go after you in terms of recovering those amounts. It's various categories of fruitless and wasteful expenditure, which also includes members pouring wrong fuel into vehicles and so on and so on. But there is a process in place where we then recover. On the 75 recovery processes are currently underway. I think the National Commissioner had responded on the 7.8 billion. This is for a period of 3 years to enable us to enlist those 10,000. As I indicated, there's 1.199 billion for year 1, 2.743 for year 2, as well as 3.893 for year 3 in this particular regard. Those are the 3 that I needed just to add. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable members, the Deputy Minister, the National Commissioner, and my colleagues. From the DPCI, Lieutenant General Lebia, I will be touching on those questions that relate to the Directorate, starting with the questions that have been raised by Honorable Dodovu. On the investigations that we have dealt with in the Northwest, he has indicated the 95 cases that were referred to. During the time when we were reporting in that process, we were referring to 51 cases. The others that are added are those that refers to the municipalities. At the time when we were making the final report, we have indicated at that time that there were 14 matters that were on the court roll. Since then, we have added 7 matters, that is the 4 municipality matters, as well as 3 government department matters. So when we will be in a position to provide the details should that be necessary as indicated by the Honorable member. With regard to, we continue to work on these matters with the National Prosecuting Authority. Indeed, some of the matters are being dealt with to decide as to whether prosecution must take place or whether there is still anything else that needs to be done. Coming to the questions raised by the Honorable Chair, starting with the effectiveness of the state capture response. In this regard, we are not alone. As the Honorable members will recall that the first priority of responding to these matters on criminal investigation was assigned to the Investigative Directorate from the National Prosecuting Authority. It was specifically created to deal with these matters. Because we are working closely with the ID, we have allowed the ID to choose the matters that are reflected in the recommendation by the State Capture Commission report, to choose those matters that they will be dealing with And then we will be dealing with those matters that they have not chosen. Over and above, they have chosen matters that they are dealing with. And we have provided 15 investigators to go and work with the ID. So we thought of made duty arrangement that they are not accounting to us. They are accounting to management of the ID. We provide them with this investigation. Initially, we assigned them to assist them for a period of 3 years. Since that period is coming to an end by the 31st of August this year, we have further consulted and decided that we extend this by further 3 years, which means that the period that we are assigning them will come to an end in 2025. So we will be informed by the developments. But otherwise, all what I'm saying is that we are working together with the ID. Over and above this, there are certain matters that we are jointly working on. In addition, we have created a further team that we have assigned officials from the provinces to sit to deal with those matters that are handled by the DPCI. That team is obviously 20 investigators that are involved. They have also administrators assisting them. So we already have got some of the matters that are on the court roll. 4 matters are on the court roll, and some are obviously pending decision. Some are still under investigation. So we continue to deal with these matters, and then we will deal with them until they are finalized. I also need to be coming to the question of the gray listing and what we are doing on this regard so that we can get out of the gray listing. We also have got teams, as the National Commissioner shall have indicated nationally. There is this team that comprises of various stakeholders. And then within the law enforcement space, we are also working closely with the NPA. I think the Deputy National Director of Public Prosecution is chairing a subcommittee that deals with the matters that requires criminal investigation and prosecution, as well as the pursuit of the assets. So we are not working alone on this. We have also internally invited and then planned with the detective service, the forensic environment, the crime intelligence to chart a way forward. There are areas that we are focusing on in line with the recommendation of the FATF. Part of those is the money laundering that the chairperson have raised. When it comes to general prosecution and investigation on money laundering cases, we have been doing that. To cite an example, in the Durban solid waste matter that we all know is on the court roll pending the trial, there are 2,400 charges of money laundering in that particular case. If we can cite the matter of the gangsters in the Western Cape, that we now know is going to the High Court with more than 3,000 charges, there is several counts of money laundering. So money laundering, we have always been prosecuting. The area that we have been found wanting is with regard to typologies, certain typologies that we will be focusing on, so that we are not seen to be doing with self-laundering, but we look at professional launderers. So we also, at the same time, look at the terror financing, which we work closely with the FIC, as all of the banks are expected to be reporting suspicious transactions. So there are plans that we are working on. Coming to the challenges that we may be having, indeed, there are still challenges that we are faced with, which are being addressed, one of which is the issue of capacity. I think during the presentation, there shall have been an indication by both General Dimpani as well as General Rabi regarding the capacitation. It shall also have been hinted that 240 among the enlistment will be coming the DPCI's way. When it comes to the capacity, we are still sitting at 54%. There are posts that are being finalized, the project 290, which we expect that should be finalized this month, so that by the 1st of next month, they can start. That will add more than 100 officials, new officials, over and above those that we will be elevating from within. That is the 290 posts that we are trying to fill. So we are building on these. The plan is that finance allowing, we intend to be filling all the vacancies within 2 financial years. So that it will be assisting the directorate, if we can be assisted financially, to ensure that we are filling these vacancies. The other area is the area of some of the facilities like accommodation, which I think that we have raised it in the past. It still needed to be dealt with. So, Chairperson, those are the areas that I think were raised with regard to the DPCI. If I have missed, I will be reminded and attend to it. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members.
General Mawela on the Ekurhuleni, Tathazonke, the Mondio and Orange Farm.
Greetings to the Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, Honorable Deputy Minister, National Commissioner, National Head, DPCI, and all the colleagues on the platform. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Firstly, with regard to the matter of Mondio Police Station, yes, it is true. Ultimately, 3 people were arrested and released on bail. But where we are seated currently, National Commissioner, we have a solid case against them. The matter is remanded to the 30th of May. So where we are seated, we are not shaken. We know that ultimately we'll have a positive result out of it. Thank you very much on that one. The second one, the issue of Orange Farm. Currently, the Orange Farm detectives are allocated 27 vehicles, of which 5 is ready for boarding and 1 is at the garage. An additional 2 vehicles are already allocated and awaiting delivery. So where we are seated again, we don't see any challenge in terms of them saying that they don't have a vehicle to can investigate. The issue of Tathazonke in Ekurhuleni, it's an anti-crime unit, private security company, which is collaborating with the police, SAPS and EMPD in terms of sharing information and also during the joint operation working together. Yes, indeed, the previous incident which was referred to by the honorable member, they had the information about the people who have committed the murder. They've responded with EMPD.
and people were arrested, firearms were recovered. I submit, General.
Thanks, General Quena, stock theft and gangs.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, the Honorable Deputy Minister of Police, Honorable members, National Commissioner of Police, the National Head of DPCI, and all the members and colleagues. Firstly, Honorable Chair, I will touch base on the issue raised by Honorable Dedofi about the gangs in not Rustenburg, in Klerksdorp, specifically in Joburg. I must indicate that the main gangs in Joburg, Honorable Chair, is Al-Qaeda as well as Boko Haram. We know that by last year, the head of Boko Haram was killed in a drive-by shooting. Coming back to the two gangs, Honorable Member, what happened is that there are two mines that have been closed. The shafts have been closed. The Deputy Minister visited as well as the Minister in Joburg. Now the Basotos involved in Zamazamas, since now that the shafts are closed, they are moving now towards the communities where we are experiencing a lot of house robberies as well as business robberies. They are more the proliferations in Kuma, Kanana, and Ottosdal villages. But I must indicate the province itself has got an anti-gang task team that is making inroads insofar as these gangs are concerned. Al-Qaeda and Boko Haram are mainly focusing on contracts awarded by the municipality. The Zamazamas are more into gangs as well as taxis, where there are killings around Stelfontein, Kuma, as well as Joburg. Also, there's a task team around that issue. Already there are two members who've been arrested who are appearing today in court because of attempted murders. They even went to an extent of going to Eastern Cape to assassinate one of the taxi drivers. I must indicate, insofar as policing is concerned from our side, as Honorable Dodofi has asked, there are inroads that are being made, and the situation is far much better currently when it comes to Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, and gangs in Kuma, Kanana, as well as Ottosdal. But the main issue currently that is bothering the police, insofar as gangsterism is concerned, is the Basotho nationals who are now moving in villages. I must come back, Honorable Chairperson, to indicate that, as the Deputy Minister has alluded to, the cooperation between the community and the police led to the arrest of one member of the community, also a foreign national, who had 14 hand grenades last week. The case is court going. It is the police who effected that arrest. Coming to the issues raised by Honorable Fisher, I must indicate, I was a bit surprised that the Honorable Fisher indicated that there is nothing happening insofar as stock theft is concerned, the Honorable Chair, because I'm in constant liaison with Honorable Fisher, be it service delivery protest, be it road raised. What we did, it is the police again, together with the community, who ensured that a director in the Department of Education was arrested after more than 300 heads of cattle were found in his farm. Those cattle were given back to the rightful owners. The farmers and members of the community came on board, assisting us also with a chopper to get more cattle that were in the farm, seeing that the farm was very big. The case is caught going in Delareyville, I must indicate. What the police did insofar as improving also the detection rate in stock theft, we established a satellite stock theft unit in
Looks like the Honorable Chair, I don't know whether you still hear the General from my side.
No, I don't hear him. He did break also earlier. I thought it might have been my network. But perhaps on the issue that he's dealing
am I
with.
now audible, Honorable Chair?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thanks, Honorable Chair. the other indication, Honorable Chair, it indicates that the internet is unstable this side.
We can hear you,
Okay.
General.
Thank you. We've established 2 satellite stock theft units to address the issue of stock theft. The one in Pudume, the other one in Mukwase, as there are many villages that side. I must indicate also in Sanisof, the Sanisof police, together with the BC police, are working closely with the farmers to prevent stock theft as well as copper cable theft. We also took note of the shortages of personnel in Sanisof. That is why with the current allocation, we've increased the number of members in Sanisof so that they should be more visible insofar as rural safety is concerned. Only 2 weeks back, Honorable Chair, the South African Police Service in Northwest assisted the office of the magistrate, that is the sheriff, to ensure that 787 heads of cattle were impounded and sent to a pound in Virginia because they were there in a farm unlawfully. Honorable Officer is fully aware of this and the involvement of the police around this issue. So in a nutshell, this is what SAPS in Northwest is doing in consultation, collaboration with members of the community, the farmers and the security to ensure that we prevent stock theft. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thanks, Provincial Commissioner, Lieutenant General Mkonazi. Ugu Files.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chair. I hope I'm audible enough, and honorable members, Deputy Minister, National Commissioner, and colleagues. Honorable Chair, with regard to KZN, there was a question with regard to or a comment rather, with regard to the docket space of Ugu. We don't have a police station called Ugu. We have a district. I'm not so sure exactly, honorable member, what is referring to. However, nonetheless, with regard to storage facilities in the province in general, we don't necessarily have as much of the challenges, although we are running out of space as we keep hiding the papers that we normally produce as we do our work, case dockets and so forth. But there's regulations in the organization of how those files needs to be stored, which we try by all means to comply with. And when the working storeroom is full, we always move those dockets or any files to stores that are kept that are not necessarily being used, where the archive, a permanent archive takes place. So that's basically with as far as Ugu is concerned. I'm not so sure if there's another question that I might have missed, General. Thank you.
Thanks, General Rabi, customer survey.
Thank you, National Commissioner. In terms of the survey that was conducted in 2021 and where we are doing the follow-up now, when we got the results and the interpretation of the results from the University of South Africa, they highlighted a couple of aspects that were identified during the surveys that we can consider as things that we as a department need to correct. What was quite interesting is when they interviewed the complainants, or people visiting police stations and asking them what is the key issue that influences the perception of the South African police service, the majority of people responded saying the way that they are treated at the police station by police officers. So one would have expected that it's about, the solving of crime, etc., but it was quite interesting to hear that, the way that police officers, officials treat people or witnesses or complainants or victims coming to the police station, that is considered an area that we need to do something about. So we've built that into our service delivery improvement program and the areas that we're focusing on, making sure that we address that. The other issues that we've identified is there seems to be inadequate communication with communities and victims of crime and complainants. And we believe that a lot of the issues that we face as a department that relates to the perceptions that people have can actually be addressed through effective communication with those that are affected by crime. As far as trust in the police is concerned, Honorable Chairperson, unfortunately, you can't change a perception through telling people that you are better now. Perceptions are changed through action and not lip service. And that is what we are trying to sensitize our members as we go through the service delivery improvement program, is that you need to change perceptions through action, and people must feel the difference. They must experience a difference in terms of how we respond to crime and how we involve communities in addressing crime. There is definitely a need for transparency, but that also links to the community-orientated policing approach. We need to be more transparent in the way that we communicate with our communities and getting them more involved in our different initiatives to address crime. At the same time, when we're talking about transparency, another issue that came up is the issue of accountability, indicating basically I don't think it's a matter of accounting for everything that we do, but at least to keep communities posted on the actions that we have implemented and the progress that we have made in that regard. So it's about listening to communities. It's about actively addressing the concerns that communities raise while we are doing that, with their assistance. So community engagement is key to the perceptions or the perception problem that we currently face. And again, as I said, the way that we treat people on a daily basis, we need to respect communities. We need to treat people with courtesy and empathy, victims of crime, witnesses, and communities in general. But at the same time, what we've also established is, while the community perceptions are problematic, there's also some moral issues that we have to address internally as well. Because if the workforce is not happy, if they have their own challenges, it might impact the way that they engage with communities. So it is important for us as a department, while we are looking at improving the perceptions that people have of the South African Police Service in terms of various aspects, that at the same time we look at internal issues as well, the issues that impact negatively on the morale of members. Honorable Chair, those are some of the key lessons that we've learned, and we trust that with the second survey that we are currently busy with, that will include a larger sample that we're going to do, so that we can get, a disaggregation per province, that we can get more specific provincial specific issues that we can address through our service delivery initiatives, improvement initiatives. Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks. Next will be Lieutenant General Mavundla on online services. Thanks, Honorable Chair.
Thank you to the Honorable Chair and the Honorable members on the platform, the Deputy Minister, the National Commissioner, and all protocol observed. On the suggestion of Honorable Smith on the digitization processes, yes, SAPS, we confirm as SAPS that we are a business-driven environment that accedes to technology processes that need to be improved. Within that, we are looking at the mindset, the innovations that we have to start, and the entire economy-driven processes. Yes, this matter has been discussed in the Board of Commissioners of the SAPS environment, the digitization of the certification, because of, as said, it takes time for the police officials, but as National Commissioner indicated, that these places are properly identified in most of our police stations. The affidavit initiatives, yes, they are there. We are starting to research, and we have researched such possibilities that needs to be customized or engaged as such. Within the certification, it must be taken note that it also involves the Department of Education. If the Department of Education is not ready online for us to be able to verify those specific certification of documents, we may not be able to continue with our digitization, but there is the digital transformation that the SAPS is engaging on. That suggestion is a suggestion that the BOC has already spoken into, and we are also taking such initiatives and research them under our Center of Excellency in the technology space of SAPS. Digitize the registering of the cases. It is also in our plans that we will get to that point when we are doing our digital transformation on the registration of cases. But there are business transformation models that needs to be confirmed, because as the crime is confirmed that it is exactly having those elements of crime, it needs to be confirmed at the police station by a police official that is trained. That when you are reporting, for example, a crime that is exacerbating from an assault GPH, the police official is the only person that can confirm the elements of crime in your reporting and registration of the crime, that it was actually an assault GBH. It was not just a slap of a person. So we are transforming our environment to get the services out there to our communities that they are reported. On such examples, the digitization is more moving towards engaging the communities and informing the communities on what step is your complaint or a crime that has been registered, what step it has been. But it is therefore a value chain that we have to follow on which of those priorities that we have to adhere to. Thank you very much, National Commissioner and the Chair. I appreciate it.
Honorable Chair, Brigadier Matruos on the TV shows.
Thank you very much, General. Good morning to all our honorable members. To my question that was asked from Honorable Mtetwa. Yes, General, I must indicate that we are aware of, if we are talking about the Moja Love show, because the Member of Parliament didn't mention exactly which one it is, but I would assume that it is the one that is on Moja Love. General, we are currently in talks with the producers of the show to see how we can better collaborate in similar models like what we had with our When Duty Calls. We are aware that in the first episode that was broadcast under the police ambit, that our members was called out, police members were called out under false pretense, obviously to effect an arrest. And this is when we realized that we have to make inroads then with the production team, because they just called our members without us knowing that these members were called out then, and that were filmed also on that specific day. But making to realize this, that we have to strengthen our national instruction that will make our members also aware and to understand the terms of collaborating, obviously, with our production houses and our film producers. What currently happens is that, for instance, with Scheme Sam production team, we've got a relationship with them. So whenever there is a need for them to utilize our police resources, They write officially to us, and we screen their scripts. We get legal advice around it, and then before they do go and view issues that is regarding the South African Police Service, we know that we have a legal opinion around it, and that it will portray the organization obviously in a positive spin. But specifically on this one, General, we can indicate that as the head of corporate communication, that we are doing inroads with them so that we can better our understanding and what their expectations is currently of us, and how better we can utilize their platform, obviously, to market our organization. So that is from our side, General. It is called Sizoktaula production that are being viewed there. Thank you, General.
Thanks, Honorable Chair. General Musikidi, on terrorism and legislation we use in the destruction of infrastructure.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. A very good afternoon to yourself and the committee. Good afternoon to the Deputy Minister of Police, the National Commissioner, and colleagues. Chairperson, on the question of the impediments that the department may be facing in relation to infrastructure restrictions or the destruction of metal in terms of the Infrastructure Act, I must indicate, Chairperson, that perhaps the only challenge will be the implementation of this Criminal Law Amendment Act and how it is being facilitated through all the processes from the police with the investigation to prosecution and the sentencing of those that are found. But to say there is a challenge at the moment, it would be an understatement, since we just need to continue to educate our colleagues at all levels and within all the environments in ensuring that these cases are not going to be trivialized as it may be, or as the observation might have necessitated this particular question. As the police, we have prioritized the focus group or the dedicated teams, as it would have been discussed during the presentation on slide 59, that amongst the criminal law threats or prioritized crime threats that we have identified, we also went further to establish the infrastructure task teams that will just focus on this particular matters within the detective environment under crime, organized crime. And we are envisaging that the more we implement our strategy, we will normalize this particular environment and make sure that it is made a permanent structure within the organized crime in the form of a section that will just focus on this. The 20 established teams are at the identified high risk or operational hotspots where we have noticed that these particular offenses are prevalent. So we will continue with this section and to also look into formalizing it until the matter is sufficiently neutralized and or normalized. But we do not envisage that if the bill or this Criminal Law Amendment Act is implemented, we will have challenges in ensuring that strictly sentences are given in this space. On the second question, Chairperson of Honorable Dodovu, on the issues of the counter-terrorism, we do have a well-consulted strategy that was presented by both the South African Police Service and the SSA to the ministers of the JCPS cluster. It is just awaiting other processes to unfold, including the presentation that we are still awaiting an opportunity to do that presentation of the strategy to the National Security Council, and other processes and directives will be given thereafter, and the further distribution and communication of the strategy will then be undertaken. The only emphasis that I want to make on this particular issue is that the strategy was well consulted by the team that was appointed to develop the counter-terrorism strategy, and we are continuously improving on the strategy as we are awaiting the final approval thereof. But we are just at the moment awaiting the other processes to be undertaken and to be given the directive to do so. Thank you very much, Chairperson. I submit.
Thanks, Honorable Chairperson. I think those are all the responses. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, General Masimola. Just in terms of my record, I'm not sure if you touched the question related to the DNA database in terms of what challenges still remain. There was also a question raised by, I think that question was raised by Honorable Maleka, another question raised by Honorable Bartlett with regard to the building of new police stations, especially in terms of why the indicator is so low. The other issue around border security, there's a question asked. I'm not sure if that was also responded to. I think those were just the three issues that I noted might not have been dealt with.
Thanks, Honorable Chairperson. With regard to a DNA database, I don't remember the question, but if it is referring to the backlog that we had, which we worked it from 241 backlog, we are almost finishing it because we are below 1,000 in terms of the backlog currently, unless the question was otherwise. But other than that, that's what we have, and we do have sufficient database, Honorable Chair, but we only have database of people that have come across us or have been arrested, or if they are not arrested, they have committed crime somewhere, or we have done some, we have taken DNA somewhere where we're gonna have to do some elimination. And the border security, I'll ask General Security to respond, and the police station, I'll ask General Sitole to respond. Let me start with General Sitole.
Thank you, General. On the issue of the security enforcement at police stations, maybe two things. One is that the provinces are allocated a budget for security requirements, upgrades at police stations, and then also at national level, we also execute projects at police stations, both devolved and non-devolved. Now, the security enforcement that we do is all the butlers, the gates, the perimeter wall, all the requirements in terms of the perimeter lights and all those. And what we are doing now, also we included additionally, is the bullet resistant glass in the CSC. That closes off the CSC from the police, from the community. So those are the security enforcement that we've done. Now for this financial year, we've prioritized 44 police stations at national level that will be finalized in the current financial year. Maybe let me just leave it at that, General. Thank you.
Thanks, General Musigiri.
Thank you very much once more, Chairperson. This is the question that was asked by Honorable Bartlett in relation to the challenges that we are or may be facing as a department with the border management and control. I must say, Chairperson, with the implementation of border management and the appointments of various members within the border management agency, the mandate of the two departments are clear in so far as this matter is concerned, where in the border control, SAPS as responsibility is in relation to crime, and we continue to do what is expected of us as the members of the South African Police Service, and the services that you will necessarily get in any other contact point where it is expected of the police to respond on the crime-related issues. There are few land borders where a border management agency is still lacking in relation to personnel. There where we have members that were deployed in those border points, they are still continue to assist as far as possible as we can afford as the South African Police Service. This was outlined, and there were various meetings that we had to the Commissioner of a Border Management Agency, and the understanding of what SAPS will be doing, and where necessary, the border management, if it is sufficiently covered within those areas, they will do the border control. That is not a problem, and we are not foreseeing any challenges in that regard. I must also emphasize the fact that we do have a priority committee in regards to any other matter that the department will require our assistance. We do that through the NAT joints, and we from time to time collaborate in ensuring that we do have a cooperation and collaborate in terms of the operations that needs to be undertaken in that space. We did have intensive operations during the Easter to assist, and the police will do the search and seizures and open cases or respond to the cases that might be emerging when these operations are undertaken. So there isn't any challenges that we are experiencing. We have clear mandates as the two departments insofar as the border management and border control is concerned. I submit.
Thanks, Honorable Chairperson.
Yeah, no, thank you. And my apologies once again, General National Commissioner. The issue of also KZN, I think there was also a question raised by Honorable Mtatwa with regard to the conditions of the police stations in that province. And the fact that none are in an excellent or very good condition, despite the fact that there's high crime in the province. And he also raised the issue with regard to the anti-gang unit not being budgeted for in KZN. I think that according to my record would be the only outstanding question, which I propose may perhaps, if you can respond to that, then I'm just, after that, I'll ask members if they have one or two follow-up questions and get the department to respond, and then perhaps close. General Masemola.
Thanks, Honorable Chair. On the anti-gang in KZN, as we are early in the year in the process of still allocating, we are prioritizing provinces where we don't have anti-gang units. We will prioritize it for the current financial year, so they will have something. And so in other words, they will be established the current year. Then with regard to police stations that are not in good condition, let me ask General Stoller to respond on that. General Stoller.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, General. Yes, General, I can mention that the interventions, we are aware of the situation. That's the reason why, in terms of the assessments that are done and captured in the user asset management plan, that's where we got the information. But what we are doing is that for the leased buildings, we have requested DPW to engage the landlords, because we have a serious problem when it comes to leased building, to engage the landlords in terms of the upgrades that need to be done in terms of changing the condition. That we're having the client forum meeting today. We are waiting feedback from their side. Then with regard to the state-owned facilities, we have at this stage 95 registered, but only 8 are stations in the KZN out of the 95 registered projects on the WCS. So we are on an MTF basis prioritizing stations for repair and upgrade or repair renovations, while our infrastructure maintenance services also addresses those devolved police stations where the repairs and renovations are less than 1 million. So we are aware of the situation, and we have registered projects that we are addressing year by year the condition of the police station. Thanks, General.
Okay, thank you very much, General Masimola, the team for the responses, and Deputy Minister. I'm going to start with Honorable Radebe. Honorable Radebe, do you have any question, or are you covered for now?
Honorable Chairperson, thank you so much. Two of the clarity-seeking questions that I had before were covered by the National Commissioner. The first one was I just wanted to get clarity on what informs the pattern of budget allocation, and covered on that one, and also on the issue of budget and the resources allocation to each station vis-a-vis equivalence to the gravity of cases and the profile of the area of jurisdiction. I'm covered on that one. The one I have now, though, I would say it's not a determinant question, Honorable Chairperson, in that it can be retained and carried over to our next engagement, is that I just wanted to get clarity on whether there are instances where the department is required by the demand to employ the services of the retired members. And if so, to find out what type of cases require that sort of intervention. And if that does happen, to check if the Deputy Minister and the National Commissioner do not think that there is a need for some kind of a skills transfer. That's the only one I'm left with. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Radebe. Honorable Mthethwa, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, Chair. Mine was not answered in terms of the TV show. I asked whether that TV show is really or not really. And if it's really, are there any plan that those people get assistance, those that are dealing with drugs? Because on the social media, it's also been raised that those guys that are doing the good work out there, they are now being threatened, and in one way or other. That's the one, Chair. Maybe the last one is the issue of the state-owned facility. Can we then maybe next time get a number or two? What are those stations that are state-owned, and vis-a-vis those are private? And don't they consider that the next time we must deal with this matter with Public Works to build more of the state-owned other than those that are rented out?
Thanks, Honorable Mthethwa. All right. Let me then hand over back to you, General Masimola, if you have any comments on the issue, or your team, for that matter.
Thanks, Honorable Chairperson. Brigadier Mantros, do you have a response on the TV shows?
General, I can hear what the Member of Parliament, Mr. Mthethwa's concern is. His concern is around the safety of those members or those community people that is on the show. I think that is something, General, that we must have then a collaboration with visible policing so that we can do the necessary follow-up on those safety issues regarding that. Because as communications, we only deal then with the planning of whatever is going to be viewed that will have an impact on the organization. So it's something that we're going to have to work together with our visual policing and see how best we can then get that information, sir.
But the question is that, sorry, Chair, so sorry, NASCOM. The Honorable Mteto is asking whether it's just a show or is real. And from what you have been saying, I suspect these are just movies that are being acted by people. It's just that, like you say, some of the things they do might have an impact on us, even if it's just a show. It's not something that is really happening. Of course, communities sometimes, depending on the episode you are acting on, if you act on things they don't like, when they meet you in real life, they think they see you in the light of that action that you are making there, and they can have some attitude towards towards you. That can happen, and I think that's the question that Honorable Mteto is asking. And I think you are saying it's a show, it's not real, unless if I'm wrong, Brigadier.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. You have answered the question, sir, that it is a show.
Thanks, Honorable Chairperson. Yeah, we will follow up on this matter and see what we can do. I also received a complaint from one of our nearby countries with regard to a similar show, to say they are teaching their nation wrong things, but we'll handle it with the head of communication and the relevant companies. On the number of state-owned facilities versus private, yes, we'll work on it, Honorable Chair, and we'll make that list available. We'll send it in writing. I think that is all the questions that were outstanding, Honorable Chair. Thank you very much. Maybe before that, let me say one would want to take the opportunity to thank the men and women in blue, especially the Provincial Commissioner Gauteng and his team, for the speedy response in arresting the thugs that are appearing today in court at Protea, who have killed the two boys in Soweto. I think the case is currently on, so we thank the quick response by the team Gauteng. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Yeah, no, NASCOM, if you can talk to that, the issue of utilization of officers who have retired in the context of skills transfer, I think that's to explore something like that, which I know we do enlist retired officers who are skilled in detection as detectives. So I thought if you can talk to that a bit, it will assist, because he wanted us to talk to that as well. I'm sorry, Chair.
Thanks, Honorable Chairperson, and thanks, DM. I forgot that one. Yes, Honorable Khadebe, we do now and then advertise posts where we do call our members that have retired to come back, either for specific cases or to come and assist also in areas of training. We do call them back. They do come and plow back. Let me also ask General Nsia just to add on this specific response. General Nsia.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Deputy Minister, members of the committee, the National Commissioner, and all the colleagues in the platform. Yes, Honorable Chairperson, There are two processes that we follow in terms of taking back the colleagues that worked with us. We do have a process of re-enlistment, chairperson, where we re-enlist those colleagues that will have resigned from the police and the colleagues that will still be below the age of 60 because they will not have as yet reached the age of retirement, because our retirement age in the police is 6 years, but you are also allowed to apply for early retirement from age 55. So we do follow the process of re-enlistment. And whenever we advertise such positions, we do get quite a number of our colleagues that do respond to our advert. Yes, there are processes that you follow, and they should have left the organization without facing any pending disciplinary cases. They must still have clean record criminally, and they must still be medically fit to still be able to be productive in the SAPS. In as far as the retired ones are concerned, chairperson, as I've indicated, early retirement is from age 55, and our normal retirement is age 60. Yes, these ones, we do enlist them on contract. They are appointed on contract, chairperson, to address a specific problem. I know even at our academies currently, with the recruitment of 10,000, we have contracted some of our colleagues to assist us with the training because we do not have enough trainers. So we have contracted them as trainers. Yes, we do still value their experience. We do value the skills that they have gained in the police, and we do utilize such skills, chairperson. Thank you very much.
Yeah, General Livia, if you may comment as well in your space.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, the Deputy Minister and the National Commissioner. Yes, within the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation, we also advertise 200 posts for those who shall have resigned or retired, who are still within the allowed age, to join us on 3-year contract to come and assist us with the investigation of those TRC-related cases. So their term will be coming to an end, but it's just to confirm that in that process, there is also the sharing of the skills as we pair them with others who may not be having the necessary experience. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members.
DM, do you have any closing comments?
No, thanks very much, Chairperson, and thanks, members, for the questions that you have asked. It's always very helpful, Chair, when we interface with the SEDECT committee, because we then get an opportunity to interact with the provincial members of the NCOP who give us a perspective from provinces that we might not have the opportunity to reach at some point. So it's a very enlightening platform that we have with yourself, and we really appreciate this working relationship we have under your leadership. And we must say that we appreciate the work you do, despite the fact that sometimes we become unreasonable and expect you to do the unthinkable. But we really appreciate, and we will continue to thank you for what you did for us to be able to pass the Procuratora, which is an act now, but it was a bill then. It was not an easy process, and we really squeezed water out of you. You know, it's like squeezing a water out of a rock. But we really are grateful, Chair, for your leadership and the team and the incisiveness of the questions that you raise with us. It's not easy sometimes to respond to them, but it's a very educative platform, and we appreciate the fact that the provincial commissioners were also here to shed light on some of the specific issues that you have raised. And we'll urge, Chair, members of the committee work closely with provincial commissioners in their provinces, so that some of the issues they are able to resolve them even before they come here. And if where there are challenges, they can always get in touch with our offices or the national commissioner, so that we work to where there's a team. You know, when we talk of the police, community, and other stakeholders, we also include the NCOP. You have a role to play in the fight against crime, and we will really appreciate working with yourselves. Thanks very much for the opportunity, Chairperson.
No, thank you very much, DM, for those words. And also let me thank besides the National Commissioner, the provincial commissioners as well, because I think they've also been very consistent on this kind of platform with the National Council of Provinces. I think that being said, let me, on behalf of the committee as well, thank you, Deputy Minister, and the entire department for this detailed presentation and your responses to the questions that were raised by committee members, as well as some of the comments that were raised by members. I think that we had quite a constructive engagement, and somehow this time it was a lot better than the previous years. I know in the previous years we were always running behind time. But I think the way the presentation was done, in as much as I know there might have been some objections, but I think the way the presentation was done, I think it was pretty helpful. And I think it assisted this process very well. I think as a committee as well, I know we understand that the task of ensuring that communities are safe, it's a very huge task, and the department obviously has its own constraints or challenges with regard to limited budgets, other challenges which are also internal and external to the department. But we hope that the department will work hard towards meeting the targets as presented to us, as well as address some of the issues that were also raised with regard to the morale of staff, issues with regard to trying to change the perceptions of society, and in that way also increase trust by society into the police force. But obviously we would urge you to make the best use of the resources you have to ensure the safety of our communities. As you're aware, DM, this engagement will culminate into budget policy debates that we do in the NCOP. With that said, let me thank you very much, DM, and the entire team from the Department of Police. I also thank honorable members for their in this platform. And let me declare this meeting closed.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Chairperson.